Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. This is the space where we bring you Black America's headline news, views, and opinions. I'm Romeo.
Hey there, I'm Brooke.
I'm Demi.
Peace and love, I'm Nielle.
Coming up on today's report, the police officer who fired the shot that killed Breonna Taylor wants his job back. And expect to see higher prices at the grocery store. It's still happening.
November is Men's Health Awareness Month, and we'll talk with Tony Wayford and Tyreek Jackson about how they are promoting wellness throughout barbershops here in Los Angeles. Plus, a book is on the way about the life and legacy of George Floyd. Plus, we officially kick off what it means to be young, gifted, and Black.
We have that and so much more. You know why, Soulmates? Because it's our voice and it's our truth. So let's talk about it.
Good evening, Soulmates. Thank you for joining us. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is calling for a series of investigations into Congressman Paul Gosar after the Arizona Republican took to Twitter this week to what's being called advertised violence against Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the president. The speaker is urging House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to join Democrats in backing investigations into Gosar by both the House Ethics Committee and outside law enforcement agencies. I just want to give you, a description of what we're talking about here. So he tweeted what appeared to be an edited anime photo. He retweeted it, and it depicted him killing Representative Ocasio-Cortez and swinging two swords at President Biden. So just leaving that there, putting that in perspective just right there with that. One, he hasn't been removed from Twitter after this, so that goes into Twitter's rules. But a conversation, something that I know you all are probably very familiar with, the world is familiar with this, Kathy Griffin. She pops back up in the conversation because of this. You all remember that artwork that got her in a lot of trouble. She kind of broke down just how much trouble it got her in.
Right.
She says that she was fully investigated by two federal agencies, the Secret Service and the U.S. Attorney's Office. She was put on the no-fly list and the Interpol list. She lost work. Her tour was canceled due to threats of violence. She says she was interrogated under oath at the conclusion of a weeks-long investigation in which the feds informed her and her attorneys they were considering charging her with the crime of, quote, conspiracy to assassinate the president of the United States. At the time, that president was Donald Trump. Do you expect to see that sort of federal reaction against the congressman?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I feel like this is the only place in the world. This is the only job in America where you can get away with something like this. I feel like any other job, if one of your coworkers posted something awful like that online, literally exactly what Kathy just said, that exact same thing would have happened any other job in the world. This is the only place where there's no accountability whatsoever.
Yeah, and at the same time, you think about it like this, there's people out there that will buy into this, right? You know, people look for things like this like to react to. So it puts their lives at risk. And how can this not happen? Like I said, all the things you said about Kathy Griffin, I was blown away. Like that's the first time I've heard her name in maybe a year. The fact that you mentioned it there, right?
You don't hear her name often anymore.
This man will be able to continue to work and do his job. No, it's not right.
What's so interesting is, yes, I do know the Justice Department is separate from the president, but President Biden is the head of the federal government right now.
Yeah, you know what? These white
him?
GOP lawmakers are out of control. I mean, there was a Republican lawmaker that voted for infrastructure that is now getting death threats. Something needs to happen with how these individuals, these GOP lawmakers, even the ones that helped on the January 6th Capitol riots, they have not been held responsible for anything. So the larger conversation is not just this issue right here. The larger conversation is, what are we going to do about these white GOP lawmakers that have racist traits? Let's just call it for what it is. How are they going to be reprimanded? And what is Congress going to do about it? Because it's ridiculous. But once again, I put it back on the people. If you don't like it and you see what's happening, it's time to start voting these people out. And I know some of these representatives are from rural areas in communities and spaces where some people in this country like this type of thing. They're racist too. But somehow, some way, we got to start plucking them out, because this is dangerous. This woman's life has been threatened. And God forbid that somebody act on what this man did, what this white lawmaker did. It will be a catastrophe. So something has to be done.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our next story. The Louisville police officer who the FBI said fired the shot that killed Breonna Taylor in March 2020 is appealing to get his job back after being dismissed in January, the Louisville Courier-Journal reported. Now, Miles Crossgrove, a 15-year veteran of the Louisville Police Department, was one of the 2 officers who was fired by the force over the raid on Breonna Taylor's apartment on March 13th, 2020. He'll now be appealing his dismissal to the Louisville Metro Police Merit Board in hearings that started on Tuesday. Now, if the board finds Crossgrove's firing was unfair, it could recommend a different penalty like suspension or a demotion. If the board upholds the dismissal, he could appeal its decision in circuit court. I mean, we're still waiting for justice for Breonna Taylor. So the nerve of this man to want his job back, and she still has no justice served on her life, I think it also shows how he values her life, which is saying it's not at all.
There was no value at all. He acted recklessly, and he does not deserve his job back. And every single time that we talk about a police officer that acted recklessly, that killed a black person with no remorse for it, and that person wanting their job back, I am absolutely blown away, because honestly, if it were me, it will never be me, but if it were me and I did that, I would fear for my life every step of the way, because I would always feel like there would be some kind of way someone would want to seek retaliation for what I did, for the acts that I did. And so I don't even ever understand why a police officer would even want to work back at the same place where you were reckless and lives were lost.
Well, here what some people are saying, and I've seen that. He was called to do a job on that day, right? He didn't make the call, right? So someone else made the call for him to be there. Unfortunate thing happened. So if he is back onto the force, should he maybe do something other than being out in the streets, something in the office, because his livelihood is affected by that? Now, there's a lot of emotion involved in here. We understand that there's still been no justice for Breonna Taylor, so it's hard to even listen to that side and say you're okay with that, knowing there's what's still out there. And once again, this just brings up another bad moment and time for her family. You know what I'm saying? They're still mourning her loss. They can never replace that. And at the same time, their lives have changed forever. Yet this man wants to continue with his life. So some people push him back saying, well, you know, he was just called to do his job. It was unfortunate, but maybe they can put him in a different position.
You know, that is an interesting conversation. I have seen that happen today. I've been seeing a bit of that, especially since this announcement came down. One, just this fact. Police officers often involved in incidents where they're criticized, where they face an investigation, a potential criminal investigation. If they're found clear, they try to get their jobs back.
Right.
They try hard to get their job. I remember a massive profile about former officer Darren Wilson, who was trying to get his job back, frustrated and in almost disbelief that he couldn't find a job in the entire United States of America, right? And so this is something that's not surprising based on what we've seen before. But yeah, to that point, he was just doing his job. The thing is, police officers have an incredible amount of discretion. That's a huge part of the job. And so the question is, with the information that we know now, should there have been a point where this officer, other officers said, oh, whoa, 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 I can't do this. Whoa, 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 this is not enough information. Whoa, 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 I can't see. We have to leave. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that was the biggest thing. It was like we couldn't see anything. We have to retreat. There were so many different, I think there are always going to be those questions when it comes to, this is the job that I was called to do. I went in to do it. Where does your discretion come into play, especially when it comes to saving your own life, right? Absolutely. Because in some instances, saving your life is running out of a situation that you're not sure of.
True.
I just feel like everyone is a human here, and where's the sympathy? Where's your heart in situations like this? I feel like police officers have so much power that in their minds they feel like they're celebrities in their neighborhood, and so it's more embarrassing instead of saying, you know what, I really messed up this time. I really messed up this time. I'm going to take a step back. Let the investigation continue. I'm going to even turn myself in, which honestly we would love for that to happen. Instead, they want to hold firm to how I'm a police officer and want to get your job back. It's that greed, that power, and it really hurts because, like you said, Romeo, we still have not got justice for Breonna Taylor, and it's just so sad that we're even talking about this right now.
I think putting him back on the police force would threaten public safety for Louisville.
So live video footage, it's going to be allowed in the trial of a former suburban Minneapolis police officer charged in the death of Daunte Wright after the judge overseeing the case reversed herself on Tuesday, citing the state of the pandemic. A coalition of media organizations, including the Associated Press, made a fresh plea last week for reconsideration, saying reasonable and meaningful public and media access to the proceedings requires live footage under current conditions. Judge Chu issued an order Tuesday granting the request, saying their expectation that COVID-19 could be on the decline by the time the trial starts has not come true. She noted that infection and hospitalization rates in Minnesota continue to rise. Right now, we're definitely going to see COVID-19 play a very big impact in how many people can be in courtrooms, play a very big impact in if we're going to live stream or not. But with this case, COVID-19 can't really be a factor when you live stream. You set a camera up, let us know what's going on. I feel like we need 100% transparency because we already are trying to be fooled that Kim Potter mistakenly grabbed. And of course, I don't want to make an assumption here, but as a police officer, many years she's been working, right now we're being to feel as though she made an honest mistake and accidentally took a black life, mistaking her taser for her gun. So there's some transparency, there's some trust issues that a lot of us have with that already. So let's not make us double think and have to worry as well on the inside of the courtroom. I'm happy that the cameras are there. We need to know what's going on. When we had let me correct myself, go back. When we had Derek Chauvin's murder trial, a part of me felt comfortable knowing that we could see everything that's going on, every witness that comes to the stand. We can see Derek Chauvin's face, how he's feeling. And so that just made me feel good. And so I'm glad they're doing this for this case as well.
Yeah, I mean, we want this to happen. More importantly, we want the trial to get started. Well, we need justice once again, because I feel like weekly here on FOXSOUL The Black Report, we're bringing you another case or trial coming because of the death of a black man or black woman or person of color from a police officer. And that's so disturbing within itself, right? This lady was on the force, Kim Potter, for 26 years, and we feel like she should have known better. That situation, he wasn't pulling out a gun. He was simply trying to run away. That happens many times with police officers, but it should not have ended this way. So, I'm glad they're doing this, but even if there wasn't, I just want this trial to get started because there has to be some type of closure for his family.
And also, it's kind of a never-ending cycle, I think, that the more people see stories like this, the more you see trial coverage like this is going to bring up a lot of feelings. That video is horrifying. I think everybody can agree that any video where you watch someone lose their life is awful, no matter what. And the more you see those things, the more you talk about those things, the more those things become the reality of the world around you, for whatever the reason, the more people are going to freak out in a situation where they're simply pulled over because of a bad license plate or something hanging from their rearview mirror or tinted windows too dark. The more interactions between the community and police officers are going to end with people just freaking. It's flight or, you know what I mean? Fight or flight. And typically it's flight. You're just going to freak out. And it's a never-ending cycle. Who's the responsibility on at that point?
This is important for transparency purposes. These cases, people are very more engaged. So it's important that we see these things play out. Just like the justice for Ahmaud Arbery trial is happening right now, to be able to watch it, to be able to see the defendants, to be able to see the distress of Ahmaud's mother, it's important. And it allows people to see what the process of court, what happens in these judicial cases. And another thing that I think it does is hopefully it will inspire people to participate in jury duty more, because you see the importance of civic duty beyond voting and how important jury duty is, so that people are judged by their peers.
Neil, that's very well said. You're very right with that.
It's going to be something that people are watching nonstop. Definitely. I mean, obviously, I know we're going to talk about the big news that happened in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial later this week, but watching that, even somebody who has watched plenty of trials, studied plenty of trials, watching that today, I learned things. I saw things that I've never before seen in my life on television. These are incredibly important, and obviously we always want journalists in the room. And it's better when you have journalists in the room telling a story and a camera, so you can see what happens yourself.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, the mayor of Ohio's capital city has proposed spending more than $5 million next year to provide an alternative police response to 911 calls involving mental health and addiction crisis. Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther said Tuesday the alternative response program would team paramedics, social workers, and police dispatchers to review the best response to non-emergency 911 calls. The announcement follows a 6-week pilot program earlier this year that showed that more than 60% of calls received by those teams do not require immediate police or fire dispatch. The goal of the program is to ensure the right response for residents facing emergencies while freeing up our police officers to fight violent crime. Ginther said his proposed $5.2 million plan would fund 17 social workers, 6 paramedics, and 6 dispatchers. There's a lot of things in this country we all may not agree on, but I think most people would agree to have something like this in place. We've seen over and over again, we brought you stories here, how things were mishandled when a phone call, 911 call, and they show up and it's a mental health issue and it ends bad. We've even seen where it's even happened in prisons where they're trying to just simply take someone to court and it ends bad due to mental health issues. So I do applaud this. Plus, they want to just go ahead and try and prevent more black people from getting shot, right? Because that's what seems to happen to most of all.
I mean, this is defunding the police. This is a $5 million disinvestment into a police budget. This is defunding the police. This is what he's proposing.
Absolutely, Brooke, because, you know, there was a, remember when defund the police, now defund the police, the term is not new, but I feel like after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the word defund the police just became so widely popular, and everyone was trying to figure out what defund the police, and everyone was getting really hung up on the funding of police, maybe the D of police, because everybody thought that that meant we're going to take all the police off the force and we're not going to have any police. But more so, what's important is the funding part of defund the police. And like you said, this is that, and it's very, very important, putting the money in the right places. The most important part of the story, Romeo, I just can't remember if you said it, so I want to reiterate, is that the officers will be trained extensively in community policing. Community policing. So that is touching the people, not just coming up aggressively, like, because you guys know that I'm terrified of getting pulled over. So this is going to make so many more people feel calmer to be approached by a police officer, because it's like, okay, there's a chance that this person is not going to come at me aggressively. They know what they're doing. They're trained in community policing, and they know how to help what I'm going through specifically, not treating everyone and every black person like they're the same and as if they're guilty already when you walk upon them.
This is what I've been saying all along. Defund the police is nothing but reallocation of funds. And so this is an example of it. Patrice Sellers, when she did reform LA jails and she reallocated the money from them building a jail downtown worth billions of dollars, that money was reallocated. It's simple. The problem is the Democratic Party didn't embrace it and break it down so that the public can have a better understanding what it meant. And they went along with the terrorization of defund the police. And really, it is a good thing. It's a positive thing. It's reinvesting and looking at these billion-dollar budgets that these police departments have, that these sheriff departments have, that these highway patrol departments have, and looking at how to better serve the community and be better public safety agents. That's all it is. And if the Democratic Party would do that, I bet you they would be much further along than just not having good talking points. They have horrible talking points.
I also just want to, getting back to Columbus just for a second, just want to specify, because this is kind of a response to a lot of people, a lot of black activists in the city being frustrated with the amount of money in the police budget. And so I wanted to ask you all just your opinion. So just thinking about 2 facts that I think are important. We're talking about $5 million, right? And we're talking about tens of thousands of mental health related 911 calls, tens of thousands of mental health emergency calls just in the city of Columbus. Their budget just on policing is, as like many areas, the largest portion of the city's budget. It sits at $337 million. So is $5 million, is that enough?
Well, I think the great answer,
sure.
Absolutely, Romeo. I'm so sorry to cut you off. I didn't hear you speaking, but it's definitely a great start. And I think I can go back to something that NAACP President CEO Derek Johnson said, that, hey, it is okay to have 2 things. It's okay to acknowledge that it is a good start, like Romeo just said, but also keep our foot on their necks to make sure that more great things like this come after this and keep continuing to happen. So I think we acknowledge that it's a good start. but also activists can keep, trying and pushing to get more and more to funnel down the line in the coming days and months and years, of course.